Hey guys, it's us again, here with a very special video. Because the third week of April is
National Infertility Awareness Week.
And if you don't know by now, we have struggled with some infertility issues. And we would love to educate and inform and tell the world about our story.
Share our story.
And in the description, there's going to be a link down there that has all the acronyms that we're going to use, a very informative site. Click on the link, explore a little bit, kind of figure out exactly what we're talking about.
And don't be afraid to comment any questions that you may have. If you yourself struggle with infertility or you know of somebody that struggles and you have questions, feel free to ask below in the comments, and we are more than happy to answer any questions you may have. We are here to help spread the word, get people a little more comfortable with talking about infertility, because to me it's something that is way too much on the hush-hush side, and it needs to be not on that side. It needs to be more talked about so that people that come across other people that struggle know how to maybe respond or react, and it's not so surprising, I guess, in a way.
Mm-hmm.
So because I'm wearing my shirt that says I am 1 in 8, which means 1 out of every 8 couples struggle with infertility, which is a lot more than you would think. So, but still, there's still so many people in the world that have no idea what infertility even is.
And infertility can range from everything from not being able to conceive to losing a baby to
miscarriages, rainbow babies, adoption, surrogacy. It's a very broad word. Everybody's story is different. So here's ours.
So after over just a little bit of a year of being married, we decided to pull the goalie. And we knew that after Maisie being on birth control for so long, that it could take some time for the birth control to leave her body, more or less, right?
At least for my body to realize I wasn't on it anymore.
Right. And so we were expecting
at least 6 months.
At least 6 months to kind of get pregnant type thing. And it just so happened that after about 6 months of trying, she had a doctor's appointment.
And it was just a yearly appointment that us women have every year just to make sure everything's fine.
Yep.
You know? And so he had mentioned, or he'd asked, when are you thinking about wanting to try? And I said, well, actually, I stopped taking birth control about 6 months ago. We're still not pregnant. And he said, there's nothing to stress about, nothing to really worry about. He said, because of how long I was on it, it could take anywhere between 6 months to a year for my body to really register that I was no longer on it. He said, but just to make sure, let's test your progesterone to make sure that you're ovulating. I said, okay. So I tested my progesterone, found out I was not ovulating. So I called him and he prescribed Clomid. We'll put, like I said, in the link below, there will be the full word of what it's actually called, in case you're wondering. But I was on Clomid, the lowest dose, and he put me on that for 3 months just to see if that would help. 3 months later, we're still not pregnant. I go back into the office, test my progesterone again, still not ovulating. So he upped my dose and put me on that for another 3 months. Went back in, said still not pregnant. And at that point, he kind of was like, okay, well, this is about just a little bit over a year now of trying. Just barely over a year.
Yeah, basically a year of trying.
basically a year of trying. So we're about like 11 months-ish. And he said, I think that you should go see a specialist, just run some more tests, make sure there's nothing else wrong, have your husband tested, and maybe go from there. And so I was like, okay, kind of feeling a little shot, I guess. Like, well, okay, that sucks. Because it's not something you really ever want to hear. Like, you need to go find help because I can't help you.
Yep.
So I went home, talked to him, and he said, well, let's just schedule a consultation, meet with a doctor, and kind of just go from there. And one of my really good friends, who also needed a little bit of help having babies, referred me to our awesome doctor, Dr. Conway at Utah Fertility Center. So we went to the appointment together, sat down, had like an hour-long conversation where Dr. Conway literally explained how the process of making a child, literally like with pictures and everything.
And how even if everything is working properly with both the man and the woman, that you still only have a 3% chance of getting pregnant every month.
Every cycle. Which is insane.
Blows my mind.
And knowing that I don't ovulate, this was before we ran any more tests, like off of just knowing that I don't ovulate, she was like, you guys have like a 0% chance right now because I didn't ovulate. So that same day we did an ultrasound, ran some blood work on me, and in that ultrasound I found out that I actually have PCOS. And got blood work back, found out that I have low AMH levels, which again are all in the description if you want to know what these are. Which were basically, those are kind of bigger red flags. But they're easy to treat. Very easy to treat. So if any of you have PCOS, like, don't freak out. Like, they're easy to treat. And just because you have PCOS doesn't necessarily mean that you're infertile either. I just am one of those lucky few. Anyways, so we had made a plan that day that we were going to try timed intercourse for the next cycle in January of 2016. No, yes. 2017. Excuse me, 2017. So we had went on with our plan. Then it was time for him to get tested.
So a week before
like my ovulation period. Right.
Before that week, that's when I got tested. And as soon as I got tested,
it took a couple days for us to get his results back.
Right. But I got tested and
we got his results back the night before we were supposed to do a trigger.
Right.
For timed intercourse.
And the results basically said that my little swimmers swim in circles. Which is really funny because once upon a time while I was in Bear Lake as a scout, we swam out to a little no-wake buoy that's like a few hundred yards away or whatever. And I swam back on my back, looking up in the clouds. I swear I had been swimming for like 15 minutes. Like 15 minutes. And finally I like get up, look around, and I hadn't moved more than like 10 feet because I was swimming in circles. So...
And this kid was a swimmer in high school.
Yes, I was. So coincidentally, my little swimmers also...
Don't know how to swim.
Don't know how to swim.
He doesn't have very many swimmers either, though.
Yeah.
So, and some of them are a little funky on the shape area.
Yeah, there's a specific design that the swimmers are.
They're supposed
the shape that they're supposed to be. Mine are a little rounder and fatter.
These have a little bit of a flat head.
Yeah.
Which doesn't really work when it comes to getting into the egg. Anyways, so we found out the night before that his sperm was a little on the weak side, is what we'll say. It was a little on the weak side. So I went in the next day for an ultrasound just to see how I was looking. And I had been on Clomid on the highest dose of Clomid, which I finally was ovulating. Thank goodness. But I was ovulating about 3 eggs, which is a lot for one cycle. So the nurse was like, yeah, still trigger tonight. Like, we'll just plan on continuing with timed intercourse. And I said, have you looked at my husband's sperm analysis? And she says, actually, no, I haven't. Let me have the doctor take a look at it and she'll give you a call later today. I said, okay. I'm like, and at that time I was perfectly fine moving forward with timed intercourse. Not really planning on anything else. Well, an hour before I was supposed to trigger, I got a phone call that said, just kidding, you guys are doing an IUI instead because your husband's sperm isn't gonna make this cycle worth it if you don't take a stronger fight for this cycle, basically.
Yeah. So it wasn't going to work. So they said, you get to do an IUI.
Instead.
So still do the trigger shot, but it's going to cost you $1,000.
Well, we already paid $500 because
the
time
that's
intercourse.
Right. So the time intercourse to get put on the plan costs $500, right?
So basically, we paid $500 to get told when to have sex at a certain time of day.
And so we paid another $500 to do an IUI. So we did an IUI 36 hours after she did the trigger shot.
Those are not fun, by the way.
No. And so we did the IUI, and you have to wait 2 weeks, do blood work.
The longest 2 weeks ever.
Get the blood work back, only to find out it was negative.
Did not work. We were still not pregnant. And we were crushed.
We were like, what the heck's going on?
We just spent $1,000 for something that's supposed to work, and it didn't.
And so we were like, well, okay, let's try it again. So we saved up for a month. And then the next cycle,
so our March cycle,
we did another IUI. Did the same thing, trigger shot, 36 hours later. Did the IUI. 2 weeks later, blood test, came back negative again. And after that, that one hurt, I think, even more than the first one.
Yeah. Because we changed up a little bit of the meds at that time. He was on a vitamin.
Yep.
That one hurt even more.
Yep. And so we had a real sit down with the doc and basically said, look, we don't want to just keep throwing $1,000 at this if it's not going to get us anywhere. And so we had a real heart-to-heart, and she was real frank with us, which we appreciate.
She's awesome.
But she came back and just said, look, I don't think you have good chances of getting pregnant doing an IUI.
Basically, she said, we can keep doing IUIs because she's known a lot of people out there that will do just IUIs just because they can't afford anything more than that, and they'll do 6, 7, and on like the 7th one they'll finally get pregnant. But she said, you're more than welcome to keep continuing to do this. She said, but in my professional experience, I don't think it's right for your situation. And it stung a little bit because at that point we were like, oh crap, what do we do now? So we took that and just said, all right, well, let's talk about, we just want to talk about it a little bit. Obviously it's very expensive, so it will take some time to even come up with the money.
Right.
We'll be in touch, basically. And so we were planning on just okay, well, we're just going to enjoy the rest of like, because the summer was coming up, you know, spring had just hit, summer was coming up, like, we're just gonna enjoy the summer. I think we had planned we were planning a trip to like California that summer for our anniversary. And the next month I ended up in the ER and started the longest process of figuring out that I have hip dysplasia. And I will explain that in another vlog for another time. But
Anyway, ended up having
surgery
and being bedridden for
I was bedridden for about 3 months, but it was about a year recovery.
Yep.
So
it was fun.
So that kind of did not help with putting IVF or any possible whatever we were going to do on hold. Put baby making on the back burner.
So 17 to 18, we were recovering, just kind of living our lives, saving up as much as we could.
The summer of 2018, we had both decided IVF is the process we want to do. This is where we want to go.
Yep.
So November of 2018, we went back in to see Dr. Conway and said, okay, we're ready to slowly move forward. Hopefully do IVF in the spring. What do we need to do? Like, how much do we really need to plan for? What do we need to do? Because with IVF, there's a lot of different plans that you can do. Ones that cost a lot more money, or there's like, it's kind of like a car where you have like a base model, and then you can, if the more upgrades that you do, the more expensive the car gets.
Yep.
So we basically said, what upgrades do we absolutely need to have to make this work?
Yep. So there's lots of different options. So we figured out this is what we need. So, and that was just at the end of last year.
Mm-hmm.
And so we were able to get the funds together and talk to the doctor.
After all this time, finally getting financially ready. We're in the birth control process. We have about 1 more week of that. Then we go in 10 days for our first ultrasound, which is the baseline ultrasound.
Yep. And that's when we start the shots,
Yep.
Start the process, start the pain,
Yay!
the heartache,
I get to do all the pain.
the emotions, the roller
hormones.
coaster.
Of hormones.
But we are so excited and we're
wait.
so happy that we're finally here. And we hope that you like, subscribe, and follow us through this journey, because there will be a lot to follow.
Lots to follow. Our Instagram handle is right here. Follow us at Meet the Jensens. We're going to be posting on it a lot over the next few weeks. Just of our process. We are going to be having weekly vlogs out of what part of the process we're at of that week, what we did that week. Just because IVF, there's a lot of steps. So, and we want to make sure that we capture it all. And like we said, if you have any questions, leave it below in the comments. We're happy to answer anything. Infertility shouldn't be a secret. So we're sharing our story. And hopefully it'll encourage others to share theirs too.
We love you. We thank you.
Thank you.